Langalbalele Felix Machenjwa, originally from Emanyiseni. I'm presenting here a paper on the philosophy of amaZulu, which is African philosophy. I'm looking at this, taking it from prior the arrival of the whites in South Africa. To be more specific, people were born and bred in rural areas, exposed to traditions and customs of their people. Besides being trained at home, they grew up attending traditional functions where they learned a lot. There was no formal school in the sense of the West, but there was schooling that was taking place. Because when you open up your eyes, you grow up to the environment. And how do you associate with that particular environment? You associate it with through language, where you start to explain what is it that you see, what is it that you touch, what is it that you hear, using all the five senses. Then you learn what is it that surrounds you, and that actually informs you about life. It's where then you start to gain knowledge, which we call it indigenous knowledge systems. That knowledge is the knowledge that your forebears actually got from the Creator, and other knowledge is the knowledge that they actually develop themselves as the way of dealing with life. So it tells you that how should you approach life. So in other words, language, it's a vehicle through which experiences that were experienced by the other people who came before you is transmitted to the future generations. That's why then you'll find people classified according to their language groups, according to their cultural groups, according to their traditions. And then you start to look at how do they perceive life. I'm interested in looking at African scenario, basing it on the secular structure, which is informed by the sun, the moon. All the celestial bodies are secular in nature. Then you come to a Zulu person, you find that the homestead itself is secular in nature. The kraal at the center of the homestead is secular in nature. The hearts that are building that homesteads are secular in nature. Why secular in nature? It's because that is a symbol of unity, wherein when you are sitting around in that secular space, you'll find that there's absolutely nothing hidden. You can see all the participants. Let's say you are sitting around the fireplace, isiZulu. You are all equals. There's nobody who's seen to be superior than another, because you can see all the people. And then you look at the center. Let's say you are sitting in the kraal. You are drinking Zulu beer from a secular beer pot. You take it, you sip it, and you hand it over to the next one. It will go around. Why are we looking at it from that angle? We're dividing the whole thing into three, which is the birth, marriage, and death. I call it the BMD, which is a route from womb to tomb. From birth, you go to marriage, and then you go to tomb. All the milestones that are found between the line, they are actually forming this circle. Because from birth, it's either you are a girl or you are a male. You pride yourself that one day you'll get married, or one day you'll have your own family. That is the main goal. Then you have your own family, you have your own children. How do you take them through this school of life, which is how do you educate them as to the path of being adults? You do the same thing that was done to you all the milestones, and all the celebrities that are involved in that particular route. And then you end up where? In the grave. So that's why I said it's a long rope from womb to tomb. You are being guided. That's why the element of religion comes in, which is the ancestor religion, the belief that you are having the spirits that are guiding you, that are looking after you. Then after death, that particular person joins the family of the living dead. Those people are now looking back to the ones that are being born. Hence, we are having what we call imbeleko, which is a ceremony when a newly born child is born. It is reported to the ancestors that a lady has been born or a maid has been born. It's not that they don't know, but to inform them and ask them to look after that person, you have to slaughter is either a goat for those who can only afford a goat or a sheep. Those who can actually afford, you can even slaughter a beast, which is a cow or whatever, to report this incident and asking them to look after this young one, to go through the stages. But then we find that those who are having certain customs, like those who remove the finger and those who cut incisions on their faces, they do that as early as possible because there is a belief that if that has not been done, there's going to be a problem with that particular child. So the child is then go through this road now, taking the milestone of being, getting to ukhuliswa, which is the upbringing. For the ladies, when they start reaching their puberty stage, it is where then the role of the family. If you come to the role of the family, let me first explain what is the role of the household, the whole household, with its leader, who is the man who is in charge. He is looking after. It is a school where children are taught various cores. It is the school where children are taught how to behave. It is the school where children are taught different skills. If you are a boy, you are taught how to head cattle. If you are a girl, you are taught how to cook and do all these other jobs that relate to that. As you go through that school, let's say of heading cattle, you start to learn different things. You start to learn that a particular stick is stronger than that one. What does that say to you? You learn the different trees that you come across. You will know the trees that are very strong for architecture. You'll know that if I want some logs or I want some poles to build a hut, which one should I actually use? Like the yellow wood in Bondo, which is famous of its poles that are strong. And then you also have the sticks that you intertwine between the logs. They call it in isiZulu izintingo. And then there's a saying which says "Lobola semanzi," which implies that you have to teach your children when they are still young, because it's where then they are teachable. In the case, it emanates from the stick that intertwines between the poles. You can't bend it through the poles if it is dry. You bend it through the poles when it is still fresh. Hence, we say Lobola semanzi, because what these young ones perceive or what they see influences the language that is spoken. You'll find people saying, "Akwedlulwa ngendle yakhiwa." When there is a building of a hut, there's some noise and people are actually prepared some beer to drink whilst they are doing that. So if you pass by, you'll see that, oh, they're busy erecting or constructing a homestead. You go in, you help, you lend a hand. In the case of the thatching of the huts, It's where then people used to have some noise because the other one is on top of the hut, the other one is inside, waiting for the needle that is used to tie the grass. And then you'll find a saying which says, ukhuluma kakhulu ungathi waphuza utshwala bokufulela. You are so loud in your talking as though you drink beer that was used for thatching. Because the one who shouts outside and the one shouts inside, there's that commotion. But it's order that is brought through disorder. That's how this thing it happens. So they are having what we call ilima, wherein you invite different people to come and help you, because there is what we call life of sharing. We are a family, it's a unity in diversity. We are different families, but somebody from that homestead will come and help if there is a need. So how do you pay those people who are coming to help you? It's just to have, it's either you slaughter a beast and you have some beer. Not that they are hungry for your beer, but it's the element of unity that emanates from that secular structure which I mentioned earlier on. So you take it from there. I was talking about the material that you use when you are building the huts. Then let's come to the flowing of the huts. Today we're having a good example of eMakhosini Valley. eMakhosini Valley was once occupied by King Dingaan. If you go there, you can still find the floors that were there around 1838. What made them to be so strong that you can actually see them today? It's because of the material they used. That's the thing I said, young people were learning as they grew. There is what we call an ant heap, isiZulu. The ant heap is used for making the floors. You take it together with the cow dung. If you look at both products, the cow dung, it's a product, it's a byproduct. It was grass that was eaten by the animal, and it excreted it, now no longer in the form of grass. And then the ant heap, it's a byproduct. It was grass that was actually cut by the termite and then produced it as a fine thing. So you mix that, you thump it, and it is going to form a solid foundation. You take the covering layer of fat that is extracted from a slaughtered beast, unwali. You dry it out, you mix it with this mud, and you refine the top of your foundation or of your floor. That's why you are having that solid foundation. That solid foundation is related to the way you upbring your children, that they must have a solid foundation in terms of respect. Remember I said, a home, it's a school. It's where you teach your girls how to respect, preparing them that one day they'll get married. They are supposed to represent their homestead wherever they will be. So in that case, if they do something wrong at that new homestead where they are married to, they used to say, awufundisekanga gini. You are not properly trained or taught at your home. They look at the way you behave and the mistakes that you do, and they will return you back home. They say you must go back to your home and get trained and come back with a beast to pay for the damages that you have caused. So it is unlike today where you say, no, you're not well trained at school, you're not well trained in the church, but you had a specific place which was the home. It was also regarded as a church because it is where the ancestor religion was practiced. They will learn when you're having a heart, it's divided into different spheres. The left-hand side as you enter the house is the feminine place, gender, which belongs to women. And then the right-hand side of isiZulu, or the fireplace, it belongs to men. And the upper place, which is umsamo, it belongs to the ancestors. It's where, it's a holy place, it's a shrine, it's a sacred place. It's where if we are having food that is prepared for a particular function that relates to the ancestors, it's where the beer is going to be kept, it's where meat is going to be kept for feeding the people that will be coming to the home. If there is any consultation that needs to be done by the old lady, ugogo, her grandmother, or by the leader of the household, he will go to that umsamo to talk and consult the ancestors before going to the kraal, which is another sacred place. We have got different sacred places in a traditional setting, depending on the extent of the problem that you want to present. You could go there, consult for problem-solving purposes. You could also go there and consult just to inform them about the new development that have actually happened in the family. So that's why we say these are our temples. And if you correlate that with the temple, the Western temple, through Christian religion, you see it is the upper place up there representing the very same umsamo, like in the case of the Zulus. How did these people get to this? It is the knowledge that was transmitted to them from generations to generations. As I was still talking about this issue of constructing these huts, you can now learn that in a traditional setting, there's no compartmentalization in the sense that you have got particular departments that are dealing with education. You are having particular departments that are dealing with science, medicine, or whatever, because all is encompassing, all is done within the very same scope, because the home is also taken as a hospital, where the young mothers actually, it's where they give birth to the young ones without going to hospital. We had our own midwives who were responsible for that. If you don't have one in that particular homestead, you will go for an old lady who is known in the vicinity that so and so will help with childbirth. Then you invite that midwife to help. If you have some people who are sick, you would consult people who are responsible for medicinal treatment. If you have problems, that's why some people now confuse this. We have Iznyanga, we have Izangoma, who are mainly foretellers because they could check what is wrong with your ancestors. Then they will tell you that you have to correct A, B, C, D. Not to have an Isangoma saying, I'll first check, then I'll help you. No. Their duty was just to ascertain what the problem is, and then they will perhaps tell you that if you go to a particular place, you might come across a person who is going to help you. Because after throwing the bones, they have actually indicated to him. That is how our religion actually helped in postulating the life as it was. This then takes you further to what other scholars think it is. I said, you couldn't have a school where you say, here I'm going to teach mathematics, here I'm going to teach science, here I'm going to teach health. Everything was done in the long route from womb to tomb. That's where these people learned how to calculate, because the boys were supposed to calculate their father's heads and know how many cattle they have. Even the Kroll head himself, he would know how many cattle he had, because he used to have stones that he used to represent each and every cow that gets into the Kroll. So when one gets in, he'll put the stone aside. When he remains with certain stones that are not actually counted for, then we'll ask, boys, where are these other cattle? Then they'll have to explain. So the numbering system was also there. Even the language that was used, like say in the coaching system, because young boys will go for coaching, they had symbols that they used as the form of writing. They used beadwork. You have different colors of beads that were meaning different things. If you had a blue, a buckley green color of a bead, it was actually referred to umbala onkankane, which is resembling a hadida. That's a particular bead. Then the boy is saying to the lady to whom he's sending that, happy are the hadidas that are dwelling at your place, because they are closer to you. I so wish to be like them. Then we'll send you a yellow one, which is like the yellow locust in Totovian, and say, I wish we could be together like a male and a female locust, which is carrying one another, jumping around. That one could also have a different meaning when it comes to a scenario where the love has actually collapsed, because that will say, usuyang'nukela now ufana nentotovyane. You are just that locust. It had a very bad smell. So all these were the ways of communication, other than using the actual language. When it comes to issues of Lobola, let's say you are having these people who you send them to negotiate, or even if you have not sent them to negotiate, they will ask, when they come there, they will ask how much are they supposed to pay for Lobola. And the head of that particular family will give them a stick. That stick will be having some marks. If he takes 15 head of cattle, he will mark until 15 and then give you that stick. That stick will be actually indicating how many cattle you are supposed to pay. You take it to Umnumzan, who is the father of the boy, then he will know that I'm supposed to pay so many cattle. And if perhaps that particular man cannot afford the actual number that has been asked for, he will just cut pieces of skin and put them into a stick and say perhaps he's having 9 pieces. Those 9 pieces will be saying to the other man, no, I can only afford 9 head of cattle at this point in time. That is how these people were actually doing business. It was not a matter of selling, but it was just a token of appreciation, saying that we are exchanging the relationship because we want to extend our families. And one other thing that one had to mention is the issue of how these families grew. In most cases, abanumzane had polygamous families. They had more than one wife. Let's assume he was having about 5 or 10 women. Out of 10, each woman was having 5 children. You may calculate that we'll end up having about 50 children. And those children will also get married and bear their own children. So now when the young man gets married, the father will allocate him a space where he was going to put up his homestead. And then you'll end up having a large place covered by people of one surname. If it is the Mtianes, you'll find that people are going to say that it's a Mtiani word. And that will be saying those people emanate from one ancestor. They belong to the one family. So they are there sharing in terms of the language, in terms of the customs, in terms of the tradition, in terms of culture, because that was actually depicted by even the way they dressed. Then you'll have various words, izigodi. Let's say those are the Mtianes, we have got the Gumbis on the other side, we have got the Nchangases on the other side. All those people with different izigodi were forming now a community. And from a community, we're going to develop to a society. From a society, we're going to develop to a nation.